When you hear the words Clump Spirit, what do you think of? A rock band that I just shoved two random words together? I bet you didn't immediately think of a boy the size of a mouse rolling up skyscrapers. But that is exactly what the game Katamari Damacy, literally meaning Clump Spirit, is. But what does this have to do with you? Well, people your age, possibly pursuing the same degree as you, were directly responsible for this game coming into existence. I'm passionate about this series. I'm especially knowledgeable regarding the first one, because games with interesting backstories behind their development mean something to me. In the next few minutes, I will tell you about what the game Katamari Damacy has that makes it unique, the gameplay, the setting, and how it's tied to college students like you. Many 3D games controlled with a dual-stick controller use the two controller sticks for different purposes, one for moving the character, and one for controlling the camera or some other game-specific function. Katamari Damacy, however, and its controls, as demonstrated in the in-game tutorial, use both sticks simultaneously to control the player as he rolls the ball. Each stick controls the prince's hands as he rolls the ball. Pushing both sticks in the same direction causes the prince to push the ball in that one direction. Pushing one stick forward and the other stick backwards causes the prince to rotate around a stationary ball and turn with the ball that's moving. Now, the other way the gameplay itself is unique is what makes up the bulk of the game. The ball is sticky. The objective of the game is to roll up stuff. The levels are full of things to pick up. There are two kinds of levels. Levels where you roll up a certain thing, like as many fish as you can find, or the biggest bear you can find. Whereas the levels that make up the bulk of the game are getting the ball as large as possible. These largest possible goals get larger as the game goes on. What starts out as rolling up garbage in a human house will eventually turn into rolling up people, which will turn into rolling up buildings, which turns into rolling up the very ground beneath your feet. All the while, the prince stays just as small as ever. He doesn't grow with the ball. But, of course, the next thing that makes the game unique, and that's important to the game as a whole, is the setting. Now, first, although not as integral to the enjoyment of this game as it is to other, more story-centric games, is the story. According to the Katamari series fan wiki, the story begins with your father, the king of all cosmos, got drunk one night and decided to destroy every star in the night sky, as well as the moon. The Vain King says that since he's your dad, you're the prince, it's your job to fix the night sky, and to do so you must roll up the Earth's clutter so we can turn these chock-full Katamaris into stars. The secondary plot of the game follows the Hoshino family. The son saw a news report of all the stars in the sky disappearing. But before his mother can see it, they have to leave to meet up with the family father, who's an astronaut, before he blasts off to the moon. Now, the son tries to convince the family the entire way that this is actually happening, but they can't get him to believe him until his father rushes from the launch platform and says that the mission is cancelled because the moon has simply disappeared. Another way the game is unique in the setting department is the music. According to an interview done by Matt Leone on OneUp.com, they had a particular complaint in mind when making the music of the game. They kept hearing people say that music in new games is not as catchy, not as hummable as the music in games that they grew up with. Now, they didn't know if this was just nostalgic bias, but they strove to make every song in the game hummable in some sense, including integrating humming the main theme of the game into the main theme of the game. Another thing they sought to accomplish was having a strange-looking list of artists on the set list. They grabbed artists from all over Japan that were popular at some point but hadn't been heard from in a while, and they gathered them from all different age groups of popularity, just to make the set list look strange. This effect is lost on the American audience, but in Japan, it's like having an artist who makes music that you actively listen to on the radio on the same album as artists that your grandparents listen to. The final aspect of which makes Katamari Damacy unique is what ties it to you in the audience, the college students who worked on it. According to L. Hall of Kotaku, it's important to note that the game might not have been made if not for the college students involved. Head director Keita Takahashi was on the low rung of Namco's corporate ladder in a branch of the company that had no way to directly submit game ideas. If the student program that Namco was hosting wasn't open to ideas and full of people who were capable of 3D modeling, which the game needed a lot of, the game might not have come into existence. Because of the hard work of students like you, the prototype of the game was well received and the game was greenlit. And the people who worked on the game started off their careers with a game that was successful under their belt. Altogether, I hope that this information will stick with you. The uniqueness of the gameplay, setting, and the creation of Katamari Damacy. I hope that this information will inspire you and the audience to get the ball rolling and try Katamari Damacy yourself.